Live from our studios here at Kukumlemle in Accra, this is Johnny's Prime with me, Ernest Manu. In the bulletin this hour, South underwater as a joint military and NADMO team swim against the tide at Waja in a rescue mission. Floodwaters have taken over, thousands of structures submerged, and the people have been displaced.
Floating. Look at that. Floating on the water.
Residents of Ashalaja calling on government to come to their aid after the Densu River flooded the entire community. However, Okada business is booming.
For the homes, we are over 500, and the individuals are over 2,000. Because right now, we have this situation pending at Kwame Anu, a place called Mamines Junction. This situation is there. We have it pending here.
Also in this package, civil society organizations questioned President Akufo-Addo's commitment to the fight against Galamsey after a latest Joy News investigation exposed politically connected persons are neck deep in the illegal mining.
The man told us he had put his presidency on the line. I doubt if the Nanado some of us believed in prior to 2016 and some of us voted for, it's cloaked with a political will to actually act.
So what should be the new approach? Well, a citizen wants more militarized response from the state.
If you are found within that perimeter or within that area of a river, the military can engage you under war rules of engagement.
Hello again, many thanks for joining us. I'm Ernest Manu. Now, there's growing anger and revulsion after the latest Johnny Hotline documentary exposed how popular and politically connected persons are destroying our water bodies through illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. Now, according to CDD Health Fellow Dr. Kwame Siedu-Sapong, President Akufo-Addo's government has completely lost the plot in the fight against the illegal mining menace. This despite the president saying he was putting his presidency on the line. Dr. Siedu-Sapong wants President Akufo-Addo to renew his commitment. He spoke on the Super Morning Show.
Is the president and his acolytes in the executive, are they willing to act? And I tell you what, my answer is no, sadly, Kojo, and I'll tell you why my answer is no. Yesterday, there was a release while I was listening to one of your programs in the evening, which said that what is being bandied around by Akonta mining as permits to mine in those reserves do not actually apply to those reserves. They don't. And it was read live on air. Yet the person is walking around. We've got institutions who are cloaked with the power to act, arrest, investigate, and prosecute. And what do? They turn themselves into institutions that issue counter statements and notices to someone who is deceiving the general public. I mean, is that what we call democracy? Is this how bad it can get? And that is why when I think along these lines, I tend to agree with those who disagree with Kweku as well, that the president can't. Because the man told us he had put his presidency on the line. He had put his presidency on the line. And when you put your presidency on the line, I read a bit, if it was Japan, and someone said he had put his integrity on the line, he jumps off a bridge because he's lost face. If it's in China, you know what happens. If it's in South Korea, we know what happens. But when it's in Ghana, we get a president who explains his actions away. That is the difference. And that is why I think, though we would continue advising, like Kweko said, and Occupy Ghana and others have issued notices for a state of emergency to be delivered, I doubt if the Nanado some of us believed in prior to 2016 and some of us voted for, it's cloaked with a political will to actually act. I'll be surprised if he does. I don't think even his attorney general, I don't think any of his acolytes, because all of them are custodians of our laws. but none of them have acted. Why, oh why, someone tell me, should Chairman Wontumi be sleeping in his own bed?
Dr. Kwame Sidu-Sapon is calling on fellow civil society activists to hit the streets to demonstrate. What he says is the health hazards of illegal mining and the lack of commitment on the part of government.
When people cannot afford dialysis, why, oh why, someone tell me, when forests that my father left Canada to come and protect throughout his entire professional life, forests that I have lived in Samra Boy, when Dr. Kwenu was living there, should be bastardized and degenerated to this point that someone is sleeping in his bed. Sometimes I look at these things and I tell myself, the only people who are interested in doing anything are those who are interested in chasing the weaklings. Those who actually have to pay the price for our failure as a country have bought those who have to jail them. And therefore, unless the youth, unless you and I decide to hit the streets, and you've always spoken to me privately, you know, I have been very, very measured in civil actions because I know sometimes they can get out of place. But you know what? If the society doesn't act, we face an existential threat.
Okay.
Our leaders in whom we've cloaked power cannot and would not act. They would rather scheme to block SIM cards and arrest people for Facebook posts than arrest the people who are actually destroying our environment, our inability to capture carbon. They would arrest the others, but leave these ones. And so the only option left to us, Kojo, is for us to hit the street.
Meanwhile, a concerned citizen, Kweku Enchibosi, wants government to take the fight a notch higher, declare an emergency and deploy fully armed military personnel to protect the lands, livelihoods and water bodies. He also spoke on the Super Morning Show.
President said he was putting his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey. How many years now since 2017? What's the situation on the ground? From everything we've heard, the situation is worse. Our water bodies have become, as you described, dead. You can't do the same thing every time, all the time, and expect a different result. If 5 years of his presidency, he has not been able to improve the situation, but the situation has rather gotten worse. It's fair to say he is a leader who has not provided the needed leadership when this country needed leadership. We can hit the street for sure, and I agree with Kwame that citizen action is a tool available to us. But I want to be very honest with you. Looking at the scale of the challenges we have with Galamsey, and there's enormous power given to the president under a state of emergency. And you mentioned just before you came to me, we are in a state of emergency. Our army, our air force, don't they have helicopter gunships? Can anybody tell me that they cannot patrol some of these water bodies with helicopter gunships under a state of emergency?
Well, forgive
me, if we
me,
say
but
there's curfew 6 to 6 and you can't mine in these areas, deployment that has war rules of engagement, where we declare specific areas as mining areas, and there are specific rules of engagement approved by Parliament. If you are found within that perimeter of or within that area of a river, the military can engage you under war rules of engagement.
And still on illegal mining, kingmakers of the Ikona royal family and some farmers at Pache number 1 are unhappy with their chief for allowing a surge in illegal mining activities in the area. They accuse him of selling farmlands for Galamsey activities. Residents also say their sources of water supply have been destroyed completely by the heavy pollution from mining in the area. Insure FM's Ewuku Malik visited the area and some sites at Pechi number 1 and has come through with the following report.
Cocoa farms and other lands for food crops have been excavated for gold mining at Pechi number 1 in the Amansia West district. Vast farmlands are left with huge gullies, posing danger to other farmers in the enclave. To get water for domestic chores, residents trek for almost 2 kilometers daily. Most of the residents now depend on rainwater for domestic chores and farming activities. My farm is over there. I'm going to fetch water to irrigate my farm. Someone collects rainwater, so that's where I'm going for water. There is no water source here. You'd have to hire a tricycle to fetch water for you to water the crops when it's Hamatan. Farmer Alima Osman says her only source of water for irrigation was the Akai stream, which has been destroyed through illegal mining. Most of the farmers here are not natives and therefore own no lands. They have no say when the farmlands are taken from them for other purposes.
We don't have any water source here. We have to trek for hours for water. The Ghana Cocoa Board projects its annual cocoa output to rise to 1.6 million tons by 2026, but this is strengthened by the activities of illegal miners. Mining equipment are visible at most sites visited at Pechi number 1. At a site close to Manso Enyare, a Chinese is in a company of other Ghanaians working. The land belongs to natives of Pechi number 1. Leader of the team, Kennedy Chumesi, claims their boss is in Kumasi. There are no jobs here. Some young miners we met at another site were working with shovels and axes. Without excavators, they are able to mine to make a living. Yaya Abdullahi says he is a senior high school graduate. When there are jobs at the community and you do not join them, people will say you are sluggish. I'm an SHS graduate. I wish I could join the security forces, but I have no one to help me. Mined lands are left uncovered. Head of Ekwana clan, Nana Kwesi, lays the blame on the chief of Pechi number 1. I told the chief here illegal mining is looming out of the community, but he told me to have patience and that he would talk with the miners. I've been to the site thrice to caution them, but the illegal miners told me they are not scared of me. I know the chief is behind their actions. Meanwhile, the youth in Pechi number 1 are planning to demonstrate against the chief, who has failed to respond to the accusations. Ewuku Malik's report for Joy News.
Now, away from Galamsey, let's focus now on issues of energy. The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has directed the Electricity Company of Ghana to compensate consumers who are affected by the prepaid system failure. We have details of that shortly for you, but first, Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee is taking an active interest in the recent system challenge. The system shutdown led to long queues at various vending points nationwide, with some alleging that the challenge is due to an internal hack. While speaking to Joy News, the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, John Jinapong, said Parliament will investigate this issue once everything is over.
First of all, I've spoken to the chairman of the committee, Honorable Atachi. We hold a view that ECG must be invited to appear before the committee so we can deal with this issue and get the full facts. Because at that level, you are appearing before a committee that has the powers of a high court. Sometimes you are under oath. But I think that it's early days yet to begin to accuse people directly. You may have your suspicions, just as we also get a lot of information. And I've been very, very careful putting out a lot of information I get. But I'm aware that the IT department has worked around the clock to bring all these servers back up. And so let's be very, very careful not to pigeonhole people and demonize them. It is my hope that this investigation will be very, very transparent and that the full details will be made available to the general public in terms of what really transpired and what we can do going forward. And so I will plead with all of us to exercise maximum restraint in leveling accusations.
Now, John Jinapor also said they will drag the managing director of the electricity company of Ghana, Samuel Mahama, before Parliament to answer questions over alleged moves to hand over the company's mobile app to a third-party company.
Information the MD puts out there, he says about 90%. And yet I'm getting so many calls from people
95%
who are still complaining that they cannot access credit. And so what is the level of information? Why that disparity? Why that huge difference between what he's saying and what we are all realizing on the ground? I think that he should be a bit measured, and let's ensure that, just as he promised, by the end of today, it will be resolved. But I'm aware that all the solutions we are seeing now is largely coming from this same ICT department that we are working with. And so if they really wanted to bring the system down, why would they spend that amount of energy to ensure that we are back to normalcy and we are able to serve our? But you are very much right. We are your representatives. It's because all of you cannot meet at a time. That's why you've voted us to represent you. And so we must take this matter up at the very highest level, demand answers, investigate it, and deal with this matter conclusively.
But how much exactly has the ECG lost since it's experienced this challenge? Well, ECG MD Samuel Mahama has some answers.
Second part of your question as to how much, we would have to wait till this whole exercise is completed and then quantify. And I would not like to throw numbers around until we know exactly what we are dealing with. Anybody whose power comes up and they have a problem can visit our nearest customer service office with their last purchase receipt, and then we would go through and do the necessary reconciliation. We'd like to thank all of them for their patience. We'd like to thank them for their belief in the company through these trying times. The company has gone through something that is still coming out of, and we just need some time. And we believe we've managed it very well within the time frame and within how we have reacted. And this has shown how resilient the company is.
Still on electricity, the Ashanti Strategic Business Unit of the ECG says 3 out of 4 metering systems deployed in the region are currently functioning. Communications manager of ECG in the Ashanti region, Grace Gashon, says the IMES category of the meters is yet to be activated by the technical staff. And in the Volta region, reports say 99% of the prepaid vending system has been restored. Now, the PRC has directed the ECG to compensate those who have been affected by this system challenge or failure. Let me bring you details of a statement issued by the PRC just in the last hour to the ECG, giving a straight directive to the company to compensate these hundreds of its customers who have been affected by the system challenge in all their operational areas. And this directive came just in the last hour. We'll be bringing you the details shortly on your screen there, and we'll be speaking shortly also to the PRC to find out when exactly this becomes effective and how many of you out there can take advantage of this situation, this system, this order that has been given by the PRC, signed by the Executive Secretary, Dr. Ishmael Aka. We'll bring you those details shortly here on Joy News Prime. But still to come, the South underwater as joint military and NADMO teams swim against the tide at Wager in a rescue mission Floodwaters have taken over, thousands of structures submerged, and many more people have been displaced.
Floating. Floating. Look at that.
Residents of Ashalaja are calling on government to come to their aid after the Densu River flooded the entire community. However, Okada business is booming.
For the homes, we are over 500, and the individuals are over 2,000. Because right now, we have this situation pending at Kwamianu, a place called Mamines Junction. This situation is there. We have it pending here.
We have details of this story and more coming to you shortly here on Joy News Prime. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Right now, let me take you to the Gassaut municipality because the entire municipality is underwater. Residents of Weija, Oblogo, Tetegu, and Ashalaja have all been affected by a flooding situation there. What started Sunday and could have been described as a small flood has now escalated into a full-blown emergency situation. The residents are desperate and are making a passionate appeal for help. Our cameras have been in the municipality since morning. I will bring you images captured and take you live to Weija and Ashalaja. You're seeing drone shots on your screen right now. But first, my colleague Kofi J joins me in the studio on the touch screen to give us some understanding of what we are witnessing right now as far as the spillage is concerned, where the Densu River actually spreads to, and why we are seeing this level of what seems to be an unprecedented flooding in the area, stretching beyond areas that would usually have recorded such incidents. Kofi, why are we seeing what we are seeing today?
Right, and so let me start with you on the touch screen. And one area that has been hard hit by this spillage is the Tetegu area, also in the Gassaut municipality. So let's go to the touch screen and see what's going on in the Tetegu area. So you can see the Densu River, and you can actually see the serpentine movements of the river in the area. And all these areas you see on the touch screen are exposed to this flooding that we're talking about. And so this river, which is the Densu River, is actually connected to the Weija Dam that we're talking about. So Tetegu, look at these areas, areas around the river are all exposed to the spillage. But if you look at sides, exactly, the river, which is the Densu, is supposed to go and join the sea at a place where it creates what we call a delta. And so, aside from this area that has been affected, there's also the delta area that has been created along the sea banks. That whilst this water comes from the Tetegu areas to these delta zones, we're actually going to see the flood waters moving from the spillage areas to the flood, which is the delta zone, that the river finally joins the sea. But I also want us to look at on the touch screen why we are having this situation. So what you have here is our chart. So the normal spillage level of the Weija Dam is actually 46.5 feet. This is the point that when the river, the dam gets to, we say, the spillage. And when it usually gets here, the Ghana Water Company would have to open 2 spill gates for the water to actually flow, and so that we can avoid, properties and other things being destroyed. And the maximum operation level of the dam is 48 feet. But currently, we are having, 49.5 feet being the current level of the river. So you can actually see the difference between the normal level, which is 46.5 feet, and the current level, which is almost 50 feet, with a difference of about 3 feet. And that's the reason why, the Ghana Water Company would have to open not just 2 spill gates, but this time around 4 spill gates for the water to actually flow from the Weija Dam to the other, environments where Tetegu and the area that I showed you is a subject. And we can also talk about areas of Oblogo. But this is not only the Weija Dam that has actually been affected by the recent rains and then spillages. So if you look at the Jambusi floods in the dam in the Upper West region has also been affected. The normal level of the dam is just 13 feet, but currently the dam is experiencing 13.8 feet, which simply means that there has to be spillage here as well. And if you go through the statement released by the Ghana Water Company, it tells you that, you know, parts of these areas in terms of operations has to be halted because they have their treatment plants and other things being destroyed by this spillage that we're talking about. There's also the Nauni Dulam, you know, in the northern region that has also been affected by recent floods. There's also Achimota. If you look at the eastern region, out of all these regions that I've mentioned, out of the 5 different areas, the eastern region can actually account for 2 of them, and they have been hard hit. So if you look at flooding of the, you know, the pump house at the Achimota, for instance, these areas have been affected. So water supply has to be cut for areas in, you know, Achimota, Akwetia, Kede, and other surrounding communities. So the situation is not just the, you know, the Wager Dam and then its environment, but also other places across the country.
Kofi, thank you very much for always helping us understand and creating much more pictures and figures to the stories that we are telling. But the residents of Ashalaja are calling on government to come to their aid after the Densu River, I beg your pardon, flooded the entire community. Many of them have been sleeping out of their homes for days with little or no essentials. Road networks have been, you know, partially submerged. The residents want government to send aid to them as soon as possible. My colleague Michael Ashale was there, and here's his report.
Flooded homes in Ashalaja, a community in the Gassouth municipality. Water from the Densu River entered homes after overflowing its banks. Many residents have now abandoned their homes.
3 days today is very hard for us, even to leave your children in the home to go out and do your market. You can't go to do anything.
Rita Sika is one of many displaced.
Last night we went to the Abain school and sleep. Some of them sleep there, and some of us, we have some friends and others, and we went there yesterday.
So your children are not going to school?
No, even today my boy didn't go to school because of the water.
Life as she knows it has changed.
This one there, you can't do anything. Even going to the market, you can't do anything.
With nowhere to go and her belongings lost, she's only roaming the community. Her son, Gideon, couldn't go to school. His uniform and books are back in their home, which is now flooded.
It has affected me to not go to school, and my learning too is not going well for me. At the night, my mother was having a friend. We went to sleep at the house. I miss learning so that I can become a good boy in the future.
The only road connecting the communities around Ashalaja to Kasua has also caved in. With only a small portion of the road left, residents bent on crossing it had to be guided. Owners of vehicles had to return because it was impossible to cross. Emmanuel Tay, a resident of Obeyeye, recounts the difficulty of crossing the submerged road on foot.
This is very bad. It's very, very bad. Yesterday, I couldn't bring my car home. So the boys were here yesterday directing the affair, how and we should move in and out. So a lot of people have parked their cars. They couldn't go home with the car. So I have the information this morning that I cannot use the car, so I have to park my car. Yesterday, I was very afraid, though, because I have not experienced it before with the car. The first time when the bridge collapsed, I was not having a car, so we managed through with the boat. But this time, as I was driving, I have not driven through water like this before. So yesterday, I was very, very afraid, but I have to gather some courage and pass through yesterday.
Assemblyman for the area, Wisdom Avonyo, says they had to use boats to rescue stranded residents, but finding a boat was a hectic job.
In fact, for the homes, we are over 500, and the individuals are over 2,000. Because right now, we have this situation pending at Kwamianu, a place called Mamines Junction. This situation is there. We have it pending here, which is this place, we call it Assemblies of God down. Then we have the same situation again, pending at 3rd October down. So you see that Ashalaja is a place that is being bounded by this river Densu. So all the banks along the Densu where we have these communities and structures, they are all affected. Because we needed a canoe. And Nadmo didn't have any to supply us. So we have to follow the individuals and then the locals and see how best. So we were planning to go to Afuama, which is a fishing community. But luckily enough, we had a neighbor who was fishing and we called to him for assistance. But unfortunately, to be frank, the whole place is being invaded, it's being encroached by these sound-winning activities. And anytime that you get there to go and arrest them, they are all armed. And they come there in the night. So we find it very difficult. So if the government can come in with a strong team, I think it's going to do a massive work. Because when you look at the stretch from Ashalaja, Afuama going, all has been encroached upon. We need the assistance of the government strictly.
Affected residents want authorities to come to their aid. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
And we've had more cameras on the ground the whole day to Weija, Oblogo and Tetegu as well. Here are what we captured.
This is a desperate situation. And these people are lucky to have personnel from the 48th Engineer Regiment here to save them. Live pictures you're watching on Joy News. Many people can say from this deadly. I can see two other people. Oh, come over here. Come here. And I am queen. You say. And so, more men are jumping into the watching live coverage from the river. Move down. This is it. What's the Momla? Oh! Talking about Oblogo. Masa unya audio full. Na soba udia na wo. Mesi udia. I say you push ya down kwa. It has not been easy. Coming against the currents here. Oh. And you can hear the So we are safe here. Okay, so let's see. That's another option. Push! Trying to salvage. See, another man swimming against the current. Push! Don't worry, swimming against the current. Children are not left out of this. Together with your parents. Millions of damages destroyed. So you can see these are the men helping to push our boats against the current. Yes! Oh yeah now! Go! Out! Go! Yes! Go! Yes! Go! Well done. Go! Go! Let's go straight! Let's go straight! Let's go straight! Let's go straight! Go! We underestimate what we have seen in drone footage. The drone footage will not give you we can see more people in canoes moving. Take your time, take your time, take your time. Pull here, pull here, pull. More people. Usually, his 8 children have now been announced seeking refuge on top of a building, and we're going there to rescue them. You can hear. Look at that woman.
What if we don't come back? When we come back, are we very sure that we'll pass here? You see, so let's just pick.
Maybe you might not. The ground floor here has. She's not going to partially with water. This woman and a child. We can see some of them going in there. Okay. Look at that sound. Shoulder. Look at that. He has been crying, you can tell. But now he'll be quite in a happy place. That's his mother.
Footages from Ashalaja and other areas wagered today when the rescue mission was underway by that joint team of military and NADMO officials. There, my colleague Maxwell reporting for us. Right now, let me take you to Ashalaja. My colleague Samuel Kojo Brace is there for us. Kojo, tell us, how are the people going to spend the night?
Well, Ernest, if you can see where I am, I don't know if the viewers can see the sort of water I'm standing in, but this is how it is. Looks like I'm in the house of one of the residents here, and he tells me that they've spent the past 3 days in a hotel, and from the way things are looking, that is where they will be spending their night, in a hotel, because they can't be here. If you our viewers can see where I am, they cannot sleep there because, one, there is no light in here in this town. They've disconnected the light so that it doesn't cause any further harm. And so without the light, it's difficult for them to spend the night here. The source of light you're seeing is a combination of the vehicle light and then the light on the camera. So they have confirmed that tonight will be spent in a hotel. But let me try and get the thought of this man whose home I am now, to try and understand how this whole issue has played out for them. Chief, you were telling me earlier that for the past 3 days you spent it in a hotel. So that's where you've been. And why? When did this thing start?
It started, let's say, Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
Thursday. Before Friday, the houses around.
Okay. So everyone has moved out.
Everyone has moved out.
Okay. So from him, everyone has moved out around this place. Just as you cross the bridge you can see that from the bridge into the town, the whole place has flooded. When you go a bit into town, you see that the water level does not get there. But those who are living close to the bridge, up until the filling station and beyond it, you'd have the whole of the place flooded. So this night, no one can live in this area. They would all have to find a place to stay. All the stores along the road, close to the bridge, all of them have been flooded. So, Ernest, if you ask tonight, all of them may have to sleep in other places other than their homes.
Thank you very much. That's my colleague Samuel Kojo Brace, they're reporting live from Ashalaja, one of the affected areas today. And of course, my colleague Maxwell Adubai is also on the ground there. We'll be bringing you more updates. The Municipal Assembly has said that it's creating a shelter for some people to sleep. We also get a sense that many of them are moving to, relatives within the proximity to spend the night. This is the place to be. We'll bring you updates. You're watching Johnny's Prime. We're taking a break on Way 10. We have some more for you. Stay with us.